Dolomite DOLO token has been listed on Bitget in the Innovation in DeFi zone. So I want to learn everything I can about the project to see if I want to invest in this. So I went over to the website and I scrolled through and I'm reading all the details and I got down to the bottom and I see that they are on Medium. So I've followed their publication and I also am going to follow their publishers, and I'm going to add them as authors to Digital Currency Traders, where we have hundreds of different authors contributing some fantastic information. Now I've added them as authors to Digital Currency Traders, and I hope that they add to our stack of articles for our 2,400 followers. And then what I did is I took all the information from the Dolomite website and I went to their documents page and I brought all this information and I went over to their startup page and I gathered all this information and I brought it into an artificial intelligence where I could ask the system to give me information about an overview of the project with details on how users, developers, and investors might make money from getting involved with the project or the token. And I've taken this information and I've created a free PDF that you can grab in the link down below so you can learn more about this project really quickly. Finally, the last step is to ask the AI to create a podcast for us so that it'll talk us through everything about this platform. I've got the podcast queued up so we can sit back and listen and learn about how this project works and how users, developers, and investors can make money from this project. If you like these kind of podcast updates on new coin listings, be sure to smash that like button and hit the subscribe button so that you get the new updates. All right, let's jump in.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're taking a close look at Dolomite. It's a DeFi platform that's definitely been making some noise.
Yeah, definitely. And we've got quite a bit to go on their docs, articles, some YouTube stuff too, with the founders, community members.
Right, a good mix. And our goal today really is to unpack how maybe you're a user, maybe a dev, maybe thinking about investing, how you might find ways to, well, engage with Dolomite.
And potentially generate some income, right? That's often the bottom line in DeFi.
Exactly. We'll definitely be getting into those specifics, those income possibilities a bit later on, so stick around for that.
So just to set the stage, Dolomite isn't just, another DX or lending spot. It's aiming bigger. Think a full DeFi money market.
And it's running on multiple layer 2s.
Yep. Arbitrum, Mantle, Polygon, ZK, EVM, X layer as well, so spreading out.
Okay. And the core idea is combining lending, borrowing, trading.
All underpinned by this concept they call virtual liquidity for capital efficiency. Plus, they boast really broad token support, like over 1,000 assets.
1,000? Wow. Okay. So let's start practical. How does someone actually get started as a user? The sources mention a desktop guide.
Yeah, a quick start guide. And step one, no surprise, is your wallet. MetaMask is what they generally recommend.
Standard stuff. Then you need to get it onto the right network, which is Arbitrum in this case.
Right. And the guide walks you through adding Arbitrum 1 to MetaMask. You'll need the specific details.
Okay, like network name.
Pretty standard setup for adding a network.
Got it. So network added, then you need funds, right? ETH for gas on Arbitrum, plus whatever you want to use on Dolomite.
Exactly. You fund your wallet. Then you have to bridge your assets from Ethereum mainnet over to Arbitrum. They point towards the official Arbitrum bridge for that.
Makes sense. And they have a tutorial if you're new to bridging.
Yep. Once your assets are actually on Arbitrum in your wallet, you head over to the app.dolomite.io.
And connect your wallet. Lower left corner usually, if it doesn't prompt you automatically, just double check MetaMask is actually set to Arbitrum 1.
Right. So you land on the exchange page, probably. But to put money in, you need the balances page.
Which is app.dolomite.io balances.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What happens then? Depositing isn't just one click, usually.
Well, first time for any token, you'll hit this unlock step. It's just a one-time permission for Dolomite smart contract to interact with that token. Standard DeFi approval.
Okay, unlock first, then deposit. And the guide mentioned something about WETH versus ETH.
They suggest depositing with wrapped ETH instead of plain ETH, because ETH itself is needed for gas fees on Arbitrum.
Right, so WETH acts like ETH within the platform, but you keep your ETH free for transactions.
Exactly. So you pick WETH, enter the amount, hit deposit, confirm, and MetaMask. And here's a neat thing. Once it's in, your assets start earning interest right away.
Okay, interesting. So that leads us straight into the earning opportunities. Let's unpack those. Lending seems the most straightforward place to start.
Totally. And like we mentioned, they support a lot of assets for lending over 1,000. That's pretty broad.
And the key thing is keeping your DeFi native rights. What does that actually mean in practice?
It means, like, if you deposit an asset that has governance votes or earns staking rewards elsewhere, you often don't lose those benefits just because it's on Dolomite. you can still participate.
Ah, I see. So you're not just getting the lending yield. You might still get the underlying assets perks too.
Precisely. It's a big plus for composability.
Okay, lending covered. What about borrowing?
Borrowing's interesting too. You can have multiple separate borrow positions, and you can use over 30 different assets as collateral.
And the separate part is important for risk, I guess.
Absolutely. It means if one position gets liquidated, market moves against you or whatever, it doesn't automatically trigger a cascade and liquidate your other unrelated positions. It's isolated risk.
That makes sense. What about more active strategies? Trading.
Yep, they have DX pair margin trading. And the cool thing is, unlike some older platforms that maybe just let you margin trade ETH or BTC against stables,
Right, the main pairs.
Dolomite lets you margin trade basically any listed asset against any other listed asset. Opens up way more possibility.
More possibilities, but also more risk with leverage, obviously.
Always. Leverage cuts both ways. And of course, there's regular spot trading too. It's a DX, so you can just swap tokens.
Using standard AMM pools. Automated market maker pools.
Yeah, liquidity pools provided by users, just like Uniswap or SushiSwap. 2 assets in a pool facilitating the trades.
Okay. Which leads to another potential earning stream, providing liquidity.
Exactly. You deposit pairs of assets into these pools, and you earn a share of the trading fees when people swap using that pool.
And this is on top of any lending interest your underlying assets might be earning.
That's the idea behind their capital efficiency. Your assets can potentially earn yield from lending and from trading fees simultaneously.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Now, things get a bit more complex. OARB incentives. What's that about?
Right, the OARB program. Basically, by depositing certain assets, you can earn these OARB tokens. Think of them as options on ARB, the Arbitrum token.
Options. How do they work?
You can vest them, lock them up for 1 to 4 weeks. To do that, you need to pair them with an equal value of actual ARB tokens.
Okay, lock OARB with ARB, then what?
After the vesting period, you can basically exercise the option, use the vested combo to buy ARB tokens at a discount compared to the market price.
Ah, so it's an incentive to hold AOB and participate, and you get cheaper ARB out of it, the longer you vest.
The bigger the potential discount. It encourages longer-term alignment.
Got it. What about this Zap feature? Leveraged yield farming? Sounds risky, but potentially rewarding.
It can be, yeah. The example they give uses GMBTC. That's a GMX yield-bearing token linked to Bitcoin.
Okay.
So you could deposit your GMBTC, then use the Zap feature. What it does is, like, in one click, it borrows WBTC against your GMBTC, and then immediately swaps that borrowed WBTC back into more GMBTC. So you end up with a larger leverage position in the yield-bearing asset.
I see. So you're amplifying your exposure to the GMBTC yield, but also amplifying your risk if the price moves against you.
Precisely. High potential, high risk. Needs careful management.
And you mentioned integrations earlier, earning while retaining staking benefits.
Yeah, like with GLP from GMX or USDC from Jones DAO. Dolomite's built integrations so that even when these assets are deposited on their platform, you might still capture the staking rewards or other benefits from the original protocol.
Back to that defy native rights idea again.
Exactly. It's about not forcing users to choose between using Dolomite and participating in the original assets ecosystem.
Okay. And finally, the classic DeFi hope, airdrops.
Well, they did have a program called Minerals before, which rewarded activity, and the docs mentioned DOLO token mechanics. So, yeah, there's definitely speculation about future programs or maybe a token airdrop down the line. Nothing confirmed, but something people watch for.
Always worth keeping an ear out. Now, speaking of tokens, there's some pretty concrete news. DOLO, Dolomite's own token, is getting listed.
Big news, yeah. It's being listed on the Bitget exchange in their innovation and DeFi zone specifically.
Okay, when's this happening?
Deposits are actually already open. Trading starts April 24th, 2025 at 13.00 UTC.
And the pair is DLAU's DT.
That's the one for spot trading. Withdrawals open up the next day, April 25th.
And Bitget's running a promotion too.
Yeah, a 7-day thing. Buy DLO with a credit debit card, 0% fee. Supports over 140 currencies, apparently.
Nice. And actually, this is probably a good moment to mention for our listeners, there's an opportunity here. You can actually save 20% on your trading fees on Bitget.
Oh, wow. 20% is significant.
Yeah, definitely. If you're thinking of trading DLO or really anything else on Bitget, check out the show notes. We'll put a special link in there that gets you that discount.
Definitely worth grabbing that link if you use Bitget or plan to. That's a serious saving on fees over time.
For sure. Okay, so shifting gears a bit, we've covered the user side quite a bit. What about opportunities for developers?
Dolomite seems quite keen on attracting developers. One key aspect they highlight is the immutability of their core smart contracts.
Meaning they can't be changed easily. Why is that good for devs?
It means integrations built today won't suddenly break because the fundamental protocol code was upgraded or changed underneath them. It offers stability, future-proofing.
Okay, that makes sense. Less rug pull risk from the protocol itself changing.
Right. And they provide developer documentation, obviously, so devs can integrate with the lending and borrowing features pretty easily.
And does their unique architecture, like that virtual liquidity thing, offer advantages for developers specifically?
Potentially, yeah. That system, plus their internal liquidity trading, could allow developers to build more innovative DeFi products that maybe wouldn't be possible or as efficient on other platforms, things that really leverage that capital efficiency.
Interesting. Any other dev-focused features?
They also offer free flash loans, which are, super useful for complex strategies like arbitrage or liquidations, letting devs execute multi-step actions in a single transaction without needing massive upfront capital.
Right, borrow and repay instantly within one block. Okay. So users, devs, what about investors looking at Dolomite?
Well, the sources mentioned past fundraising rounds, so there were opportunities for early-stage direct investment in the project. That shipment might have sailed for that stage, but it shows VC interest.
Okay. What about ongoing or future opportunities? The token.
Yeah, the DOLO token itself, now being listed, is the obvious one. Its future value will depend on the platform's success, adoption, tokenomics, all the usual factors.
And the mention of DOLO token in docs might hint at further utility or evolution there.
Could be. Also, investors might look at the strategic partnerships Dolomite forms. As they integrate with more projects, the whole ecosystem could grow, potentially increasing value.
And if there's a governance aspect to the token eventually.
Then, holding it could give investors a say in the protocol's future direction, which is another form of value.
Okay. Let's circle back to that architecture because it seems really central. This virtual liquidity. And can we just try explaining it one more time? Why is it efficient?
Okay, think simple. Usually, money you lend sits in one pot, money for swaps sits in another DX pot.
Right, yeah, mostly separate.
Dolomite tries to make the same capital available for both simultaneously, virtually. So maybe your USDT deposit is earning lending interest, but it's also being counted as available liquidity that can help facilitate a swap on their internal DX, earning trading fees too. Your one deposit is doing double duty, potentially.
Okay. Reusing the liquidity.
Yeah.
And the USDC DPEG example, how did that show the benefit?
During that chaos, lots of USDT was being borrowed elsewhere to long USDC, right? So USDT withdrawals got difficult or expensive on some platforms.
I remember that.
Dolomite's argument is that their internal system, with this virtual liquidity, might have allowed users more flexibility. Maybe swapping virtual USDT internally for something else to withdraw. Or borrowing trading virtual USDT without needing a real withdrawal, potentially keeping things smoother.
So more internal flexibility during external stress.
That's the idea. Another big pillar is users retaining control, like we touched on with the DeFi native rights.
Right. The staking rewards example with PLV GLP, you deposit it, but you can still potentially claim rewards from Plutus DAO via Dolomite's interface.
Exactly. You're not cut off from the original assets ecosystem just because you're using it as collateral or lending it out on Dolomite.
That's a strong selling point. And the broad token support, we keep mentioning thousands of assets, even non-standard ones.
Yeah.
That opens up niche markets.
Definitely. Protocols that only list the top 20 or 50 assets miss out on a lot of the long tail. Dolomite aims to capture that.
What about the structure? Immutable core, mutable modules. Sounds technical, but maybe important.
It's about balancing stability and adaptability. The core lending borrowing logic is locked down, immutable for security. But they can add new features or integrations via separate upgradable modules without messing with that core.
Best of both worlds, hopefully. Secure foundation, flexible additions.
That's the goal. And risk management, we mentioned the isolated positions protecting against cascading liquidations for borrowers. But, standard disclaimer, DeFi always has market risks and technical risks. All there.
Absolutely. And running on layer 2s, Arbitrum, Mantle, etc., that's crucial for keeping costs down, right?
Essential. Low gas fees make interacting with all these features, lending, borrowing, trading, zapping, actually viable without costing a fortune per transaction.
And they brought margin trading and everything to mobile, too.
Yeah, they emphasize that the full feature set is accessible on smartphones, which isn't always the case for complex DeFi platforms. Increases accessibility.
Seems like they're built for collaboration, too, encouraging others to integrate.
Right, and they stress security, multiple audits, high test coverage, plus the developer docs we mentioned, trying to tick all the boxes for a serious platform.
Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up, it really feels like Dolomite is presenting itself as a platform with quite a few different angles for people to get involved.
Yeah, for users, it's that whole suite. Lending tons of assets, keeping those native rights, flexible borrowing with isolated risk, margin, and spot trading on lots of pairs.
Plus earning as an LP, the OARB yield farming, the Zap leveraging those specific integrations like GLPJ USDC, and maybe, just maybe, future airdrops.
A lot of potential avenues there. And for developers, it's building on that stable, immutable core, using the docs to integrate, maybe creating novel stuff, using the virtual liquidity, and leveraging flash loans.
Stability plus innovation potential.
And for investors, well, there's the DOLO token listing on Bitget right now, the potential future value tied to platform growth, the benefit of partnerships, and maybe governance down the line.
Right. So as a final thought for everyone listening, think about how these features, especially things like the virtual liquidity, the broad token support, keeping those DeFi rights, might fit into your own DeFi strategy.
Yeah, does that capital efficiency model appeal? Does the risk isolation in borrowing fit your style? Does the potential of the DOLO token or the Bitget listing interest you?
It's definitely a platform with some unique aspects worth exploring further. Digging into their documentation and maybe even trying out the platform on a layer 2 seems like the next step if any of this sparked your interest. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.